All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dylan Lusk at the National Weather Service here in Peachtree City, Georgia. This will be your weekly weather briefing for Thursday, April 8th, 2021. So just to give you a couple of highlights of what's coming up, we've got several days of storms ahead. We're mainly worried about them in the afternoon and evening. We do have some SPC categorical risks that are out for each of these days across our area. So today and tomorrow, we've got a marginal risk up that's a level 1 of 5. Today we're worried about some isolated damaging wind gusts, some isolated hail, and we could see a brief tornado, especially during the afternoon and evening. And then tomorrow we also have a marginal risk up. Tomorrow we're worried about just getting some damaging wind gusts and isolated hail. And we'll also have a marginal flash flood risk tomorrow. And then day 3, which is Saturday, that right now looks to be the best day, quote unquote, for when we could see some severe weather. There is some uncertainty around this day and exactly where it may take place, but it looks like we'll probably have a line of storms that will come through some portion of the state and could bring with them some damaging wind gusts, some isolated hail, and the chance for a brief tornado, as well as a slight flash flood risk. Outside of that, we've got temperatures this week that are going to be in the 70s and 80s for the most part for our highs outside of the mountains, and in the 60s up that way. And then we've got another chance of rain the mid to end of next week, so next Wednesday towards the end of that week. But other than that, the days in between are looking pretty great. So here's our current conditions across the area. We have a cold front that has kind of pushed towards us, but it's mostly stalled out at this point. And so because of that, up ahead of that cold front, we're getting a lot of moisture that is kind of finally returning to the area. I know it's been kind of, it's been warming up, but it's also been kind of dry out there at times. And so we're finally getting some of that moisture being pulled back in, and that's going to take place over the next several days. And as a result, with all that moisture coming back in and with the daytime heating that we'll get, we're going to have daily chances of storms, some of which could be strong to severe. So here's the current radar, or at least as I was recording this presentation, here's the current radar. So it's around, taking around noon or so. As you can see, we've got just some showers and stuff. The worst of the weather seems right now to be isolated either more to the north of the state or actually south towards Florida and over the Gulf, and we're in a nice little clearing in the middle here, which is great for us in a way. But as with the sun kind of coming out, with things starting to heat up this afternoon, we will have a chance to see some isolated storms that could redevelop and could be strong to severe because of this kind of clearing that we're getting today. So here's what that marginal risk looks like. It basically, the eastern end of it extends along the line from, say, Athens to Macon to Albany down through here, and pretty much covers everything west of that, including the Atlanta metro, Columbus, and Rome. As I said before, we're not too worried today about this being any kind of widespread event. Basically, we could have some afternoon thunderstorms that do pop up, and with these we could have some isolated damaging wind gusts. There's a small chance that we could see some hail up to an inch in the size, and we can't rule out the possibility of a brief spin-up tornado, though the threat of all of these things is, well, it's marginal. This is our level 1 out of 5, so it is pretty low today, but it could happen. Here's for Friday. Once again, we have a marginal risk, kind of similar to today, where we'll have all that moisture in place, and so we could see some afternoon to evening kind of pop-up storms that show up, and with those we'll also once again have those chances of isolated damaging wind gusts and isolated hail to about an inch in diameter. The more potentially concerning day would be Saturday. Once again, I'd like to emphasize there's some uncertainty around this day. The current expectation is that we'd have a line of storms basically that will form in the morning to afternoon and kind of move into the state from the west, so from Alabama basically into us. A lot of the current models are showing that happening somewhere in either central or southern Georgia, hence why you guys are kind of painted in that slight risk in Columbus and Macon and Albany and those places. Um, with that said, as we get a little bit more certainty around exactly, when and where this line of storms might move through and how strong it may be, um, there's definitely the possibility that we could see some upgrades in the risk areas for this, because this could be a little bit more organized. It will have a little bit better atmospheric conditions to work with on Saturday, and so we kind of can't rule out that there would be a little bit greater extent of a wind threat, especially as the line kind of moves through. So right now it's a slight risk. Our primary risks are damaging wind gusts. Can't rule out seeing hail up to an inch, and as with any of these kind of lines that move through our area, we sometimes get those kind of brief spin up tornadoes that happen right at the front of the line, and so we can't rule that out either. All right, here's kind of our probability of precipitation with these couple of days worth of thunderstorms that we're potentially going to have. Starting with today, here is you can see the greatest chances right now we have kind of painted over North Georgia, and then kind of points once again along that Athens to Macon to Albany line, points westward is where we have our greatest chances, kind of corresponding with where that slight risk was. Tonight, we could continue to see some storms that hang around a little while before things start to die off. We also could get some development of some rain and other things, especially down in central to southern Georgia, as that moisture that we were talking about earlier kind of continues to return into the area. Tomorrow, those chances of rain continue to kind of increase as we continue to see that moisture come in with 40 to 60 to near 70% chances across a good chunk of the area. Same for tomorrow night. Still have decent chances of seeing rain, especially across northern Georgia. And then going into Saturday, this is where we have the most confidence that we will see some kind of precip push through the state. With basically that line of storms that's going to push in. So we have pretty high probability of precipitation pretty much statewide with that. That line will push through on Saturday and into Saturday night, and by Sunday things actually look to be clearing up. Here is the WPC outlooks. For today, we do not have any WPC outlooks, as we're expecting the storms to be isolated enough in nature to not really present any flash flooding type problems or anything like that. Starting on Friday, we do start to see basically a marginal risk of flash flooding kind of creep into central Georgia, and on Saturday, we can actually see we have a slight risk that begins to creep into central Georgia, and we actually have a marginal risk over most of our forecast area of flash flooding as that kind of heavier line of storms and rain does eventually move through. Here is our total rainfall right now going through Sunday morning that we're forecasting. As you can see, we've got kind of some areas of around 2 inches, and as you get up into the mountains where you can get the mountains kind of aiding and helping generate that precipitation, some areas of up to 2.5 inches, 3 inches, things like that. But for the most part, it looks to be kind of a widespread 1 to 2 inch event across most of our area. Though you could, especially those of you that end up under some of these heavier thunderstorms, you could certainly see a little bit more than this, which is why we do have that flash flood risk up. The good news though with this is for the most part, all of that rain that we got last week has cleared out of our rivers. Pretty much all of our rivers are being shown as below flooded at this point. We've only got a couple of rivers down here moving towards the coastline that are still kind of filtering some of that water out. So at the very least, we, when it comes to flash flooding and things like that, and flooding of some of these rivers, it's not going to be it's not going to be a very quick thing. It'll take a little bit more than it, say, took last week to get some of these rivers to kind of jump up into those flood levels and things like that. Here's the 7-day temperature forecast. As I mentioned at the beginning of the briefing, it looks like beautiful spring weather outside of the rain. We've got 70s, 70s to some 80s, especially as you get down into central Georgia, that are going to be our forecast highs through the week. So, once the rain moves out, definitely enjoy it. Last thing I'll show you is our 8 to 14 day outlook that the Climate Prediction Center puts out. Basically, this is just showing your chances of being on the left either above or below what would be average precipitation, and on the right either above or below what would be your average temperature for the year, or for that time period, I should say. And on the left here, you can see basically what they would be forecasting here is a slight chance of being above average in terms of our precipitation. This likely has to do with the fact that we have in the forecast that chance, or that potential chance of rain at the middle to end of next week. And then with that, we'd probably have a front coming through, and so you have decent chances of being below your average temperature. So just to wrap things up, we've got several days of storms ahead, mainly in the afternoon and evening, day 1 and day 2. So today and tomorrow we have a marginal risk of seeing some severe weather. And on day 3, that's when we have a little better confidence that we're going to see some kind of severe weather with some kind of line or line segment moving through the area. And with that, our primary concern is going to be the damaging wind gusts, though there is uncertainty around exactly where and when that line would move through. So definitely stay tuned to the forecast as we go forward. Outside of that, once again, temperatures in the 70s and 80s, outside of the mountains, 60s up that way. And we'll have another chance of rain in the middle to end of next week. So thank you so much. As always, if you need to contact us, want to talk to us about any of the weather or anything like that that's coming up, we'll be more than happy to do so. You can reach us by phone here in the office. We're always staffed 24/7. This briefing will be put up on our briefing page on our website. It will also be uploaded to our YouTube. Other ways you can reach out to us are via our Twitter and Facebook, which we try to keep monitored as best we can, especially outside of any kind of weather or anything like that. So thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.